Everyone hyped about Marvel's Spider-Man 2 wants to know more about the upcoming game. We waited 3 years after the launch of the original title for Insomniac Games, its developer, to confirm its development, and when the game was finally announced, it was revealed to be releasing in 2023. Luckily, it looks like both Marvel and Insomniac don't plan on keeping Marvel's Spider-Man 2 in a news drought until its release date draws closer. Individuals tied to the project, such as Venom voice actor Tony Todd, are speaking on the game, such as the scope of the game is massive. One executive on Marvel's payroll recently sat down for his own interview about the title, providing a few more little details. Bill Roseman, Marvel Entertainment's creative vice president for Marvel Games, participated in the latest This Week in Marvel podcast for a Q&A about Insomniac Games' 2 upcoming Marvel titles, Marvel's Spider-Man 2 and the surprising Marvel's Wolverine. When asked to spill everything he knew about Marvel's Spider-Man 2, in particular, Bill, of course, stated that Marvel wasn't ready to get too detailed yet, but he did reveal the kind of tone that the game will have. Roseman compares Marvel's Spider-Man 2 to Star Wars: The Empire Strikes Back, claiming that the game's tone will be darker than its 2 predecessors. The Empire Strikes Back is famous for having a much darker ending than the original movie, as it sees the villains win in the end or at least prevent the heroes from doing so. It might not seem like much, but using the movie as a description for Marvel's Spider-Man 2 certainly gives fans an idea of what to expect from the title. Marvel loves to draw inspiration from the original Star Wars trilogy, particularly from The Empire Strikes Back. The entirety of the MCU's second phase mimicked The Empire Strikes Back tonal shift, giving its films both darker storylines and a plethora of severed hands. With both Kraven the Hunter and Venom stalking around in Marvel's Spider-Man 2, the game certainly has the villains necessary to deliver the kind of darker storyline Roseman promises. I like the turn Marvel's Spider-Man 2 is taking, and I want them to explore more darker paths like Spider-Man turning into a monster spider and so on. The PS5 has a bright future with Marvel games, with Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine. It seems like the PS5's future can get even brighter, as a new rumor suggests a Marvel multiplayer game is coming exclusively to the console. Sony and Marvel have been well-versed with one another for a long time. While the two companies have had a rather testy relationship when it comes to cinema, in the gaming industry, Sony and Marvel are quite fond of each other. At the recent PlayStation Showcase 2021, Sony revealed that Insomniac is developing Spider-Man 2 and Wolverine, a standalone game about the titular character. Besides the trust Marvel has in Insomniac Games, there are other instances like the Spider-Man DLC that is coming exclusively to Marvel's Avengers PlayStation players despite being a multi-platform game. The recent report potentially leaked an upcoming Marvel multiplayer game coming exclusively to PS5. They do, however, go on to speculate that this title is being developed by none other than Insomniac Games, adding to the studio's list of current projects. Insomniac Games has been a powerhouse for Sony, so if this rumor ends up being true, it is no surprise that Sony is calling upon the studio once more. Insomniac Games potentially working on this title holds up in a couple different ways. For starters, Insomniac Games was hiring for a multiplayer project a few months ago, without revealing any further details about the project itself. Additionally, Insomniac has been balancing 2 to 3 game development projects for some time now, as the transition from Spider-Man Miles Morales to Spider-Man 2, finishing Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, and Wolverine have indicated. It is certainly plausible that Insomniac Games is working on this project. Then, Guerrilla Games is also hiring for an MMO and multiplayer project which could take place in the Horizon universe or Killzone. With there already being a hero-based, live-service game in Marvel's Avengers, it is unlikely another game like that will be made. However, a game that categorizes the heroes into different roles and having them work together to complete different objectives, something like Overwatch, could be interesting. If it's a PS5 exclusive too, then it likely will be one massive game to boot. Overall, PlayStation focusing on multiplayer projects, through their success in single-player blockbusters looks promising. And there is a lot of dead franchises that is needed to be brought back alive. Speaking of Spider-Man, Square Enix confirms that Spider-Man is bringing additional story and cutscenes into the Marvel's Avengers expansion. fans have been expectantly waiting on any news about what they can expect from the upcoming Spider-Man content in Marvel's Avengers. After going silent about the character for a while, Square Enix recently confirmed that the Webheads edition will bring additional story and cutscenes. According to Crystal Dynamics senior producer Dan Matlack on the official Marvel's Avengers Discord server, the Spider-Man content is classified by the company as an event and, as a result, will have its own cutscenes and story content. As there hasn't been an official update outside of Matlack's statement, it's unclear how much new content will be coming to Marvel's Avengers for the release of Spider-Man. The recent War for Wakanda expansion added over 3 hours of content to the base game, so hopes are high that a similar amount of DLC is coming with Spider-Man. Recently, Crystal Dynamics showed off a content roadmap for the rest of 2021 as it celebrated Marvel's Avengers' first anniversary. The roadmap says that players can expect the PlayStation-exclusive Spider-Man DLC at some point before the end of the year, but doesn't provide any specific dates as to when that's happening. Hopefully, the DLC doesn't see another delay pushing it into 2022. However, Crystal Dynamics has provided players with plenty of free content and support for the title, so it seems like fans would be understanding, especially with the challenges added to game development brought on by the ongoing pandemic. That said, fans are anxious to finally play as Peter Parker, as his DLC was initially supposed to have launched earlier this year but was delayed. It will be interesting to see what it's like to control the character compared to Insomniac Games' interpretation in Marvel's Spider-Man. Speaking of Marvel, comic book writers usually get the short end of the stick, but a Marvel lawsuit could see several heirs redeem the works of these geniuses. Just as Marvel Studios' Phase 4 is kicking into gear, the companies responsible for creating the vast MCU will also get ready to stave off possible compromises over the characters in it, as the heirs of several creative masterminds could disrupt ownership of several Avengers. The main Marvel characters in question are Iron Man, Ant-Man, Hawkeye, Black Widow, Falcon, plus No Way Home duo Spider-Man and Doctor Strange, among others, whose property could be subject to copyright termination in the near future by Stan Lee, Steve Ditko, Gene Colan, and Don Rico's descendants, according to U.S. law. If Marvel representatives lose, this could mean Disney would be forced to share the licensing rights and exploitation of all these works with the different groups of heirs. According to court documents dug up by The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel Characters, Inc. has filed complaints looking to obtain a formal declaration that all these powerful Avengers are not eligible for copyright termination despite their work for hire nature. Basically, copyright termination allows authors, or their eventual heirs, to reclaim rights over a specific work, provided certain conditions are met, a field in which Mark Tobroff, the attorney representing the different groups of heirs, specializes in like few others. Tobroff is most famous for representing Superman creators Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster in a failed attempt to seek such termination from DC Comics, as well as doing the same on behalf of Jack Kirby's heirs between 2013 and 2014, with the latter case ultimately being settled before getting reviewed by the Supreme Court. Marvel's response comes on the back of recent termination notices filed by Stan Lee's brother Larry Lieber, which if successful would see Disney lose partial control over their prized superheroes in June 2023. Naturally, Marvel has lawyered up quite well with Dan Petrocelli, the same attorney who held up DC's rights in the Superman case, with the core part of the company's argument being that Marvel had the right to exercise creative control over Lee's contributions and paid Lee a per-page rate for his work. The news should not come as a surprise, given that even writers and artists from more recent works like The Winter Soldier have voiced their dissatisfaction over how little compensation they have actually received for the money-making machines they created. Like any legal proceedings, it will take a while until the ramifications of these copyright battles fully play out, but in the worst-case scenario for Marvel, they would end up having to share part of those massive MCU profits. The move will only add up to the legal worries piling up for Disney and Marvel after Scarlett Johansson's own lawsuit over her Black Widow bonuses. This could also impact the gaming space, as several characters involved in this are being in big blockbuster releases and future games in development. Hope this case gets solved as quick as possible, without affecting the movie and gaming industry. Moving forward, we have updates on Battlefield 2042, as EA officially announces the start dates for an upcoming open beta for Battlefield 2042 that gives players a chance to jump into the action. Fans of Battlefield 2042 have been waiting a long time for official news about an upcoming beta. While leakers had been listing possible beta dates for weeks, players were still waiting for an official announcement from EA. Fortunately, EA has finally put the speculation about the beta to rest after a recent announcement. In a post on the EA website, the publisher provided new details surrounding the upcoming beta for Battlefield 2042. According to EA, the start time for early access begins on October 6 at 7 o'clock Universal Time Coordinated for all platforms. This early access is available to players that pre-order the game or have an EA Play membership. However, the beta opens up to all gamers regardless of pre-order status on October 8 at 7 o'clock Universal Time Coordinated. In addition, the beta becomes available for preload on October 5 at 7 o'clock Universal Time Coordinated. Beyond providing information regarding start times, EA gave fans an idea of what to expect. During the beta, players will be able to play Conquest mode on the map Orbital. The developers noted that this map will give players a look at the chaotic weather systems that play a part in battles. It's worth noting that progression from the open beta will not carry over to the release of Battlefield 2042. EA detailed the supported platforms for the beta as well. Gamers can play on PC through Origin, EA App, Steam, or Epic Games Store. In addition, it is available for download on PS5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and Xbox One. The dates for Battlefield 2042's open beta have recently been announced, giving fans of the franchise something to look forward to in the first few weeks of October. Unfortunately, while the beta is technically free to play, it still requires Xbox owners to have Xbox Live Gold despite not requiring those on PlayStation to have a PS Plus subscription. With the Battlefield 2042 beta just around the corner, fans will soon have the opportunity to get a taste of what's on offer before the game launches later this year. Unfortunately, there's one big restriction for those looking to play with friends on other platforms during the beta. The Battlefield 2042 beta won't support crossplay parties, though the game will still feature crossplay at launch. The crossplay party detail is an important thing to keep in mind, however, as the Battlefield 2042 beta does still technically have crossplay enabled, players just can't make crossplay parties with friends. Essentially, this means that Battlefield 2042's beta matchmaking will pool together players from separate platforms, but players won't be able to create parties with their friends on other ecosystems. It's an interesting restriction, though crossplay parties will be implemented by the time the full game rolls around. Crossplay between consoles and PC will be restricted by generation for Battlefield 2042 due to the scope of the different versions of the game. The PS4 and Xbox One only support 64-player Battlefield 2042 matches on smaller versions of maps, so they'll be restricted to playing with each other. Meanwhile, the PS5, Xbox Series X, and PC support 128-player Battlefield 2042 matches on full-scale maps, so those platforms will be able to play together. It's a bit complicated, but the reasoning is sound. With this upcoming beta being the first opportunity for many fans to check out the game, it will be interesting to see what type of reception it receives. With less than 2 months until release, it seems likely that the experience gamers get in the beta will for the most part reflect the finished product. A new patent from Bandai Namco indicates a possible Tekken 8 game is in the works, implementing a helpful feature for new players. 2017's Tekken 7 has been a huge success for Bandai Namco, lauded for its intricate mechanics and roster, with favorable views from the competitive side of the fighting game community. This can be seen with the game getting continued support for the last couple of years, including 4 seasons of DLC, with the latest Tekken DLC fighter being added earlier this year. While it's unknown if a Tekken 8 is in the works, a patent from Bandai Namco suggests that there is some groundwork being laid for a new feature that can benefit players looking to play competitively. The competitive side of the game has been supported through various events like the competitive Tekken 7 Online Challenge that took place earlier this year, giving the community a chance to compete in an online setting. It's also a game that has made appearances at EVO, one of the biggest fighting game tournaments, ever since it was released. This patent from Bandai Namco is looking to capitalize on its success in this market by introducing a feature that will help teach a new player techniques similar to those who play competitively. The mechanics of this patent have recently surfaced online, with images and documents being found on the United States Patent and Trademark Office under the company's name. It details the system being able to investigate when players are pressing buttons during combos at the right and wrong timings, with a suggestion on the right times to do so. This allows for a Tekken player to develop and strengthen muscle memory during play sessions, which can teach them the appropriate attack sequences and perfect ways to counterattack, due to the data it's collecting. The patent then further details a system that would provide another way a new player can get to grips with Tekken competitively. This includes a system where competitive players are able to teach newer ones. This is further showcased through the system recommending characters based on the player's reaction time, which can help them hone their skills based on how fast they respond to incoming attacks. While there are plenty of great Tekken characters, choosing the right one for a player is crucial to understanding the game and determining their playstyle. While this patent is a good thing for Tekken 8, it might lock other fighting games out of pursuing the same kind of technology and system for its own titles. With a powerful system like this, it can help bridge the gap between competitive and casual fighting game fans, and help bring them all on the same skill ceiling. It will be good to see if there is an option for turning this feature on or off based on how the player wants to tackle the situation. A new job listing suggests that Crystal Dynamics might be working on a new entry in the Tomb Raider series following its work on Marvel's Avengers. The Tomb Raider reboot trilogy was successful in bringing a classic video game franchise to the modern era. While Shadow of the Tomb Raider had not been received well, many thought that the game might be the final entry in the rebooted franchise, but it seems like Crystal Dynamics might be hiring to create a fourth title in the series. According to a job posting on LinkedIn, Crystal Dynamics is looking for a lighting artist with plenty of experience working on AAA games. While the studio has a handful of projects that it's currently working on, the listing specifically asks that applicants are able to match the style of the Tomb Raider reboot games, specifically for the first and second entries, as those were the titles developed by Crystal Dynamics. There's no way to know for certain what the studio is up to until it announces its upcoming projects officially, but as the listing mentions the Tomb Raider franchise by name, it seems like a fourth title could be in the works. Crystal Dynamics didn't work on the third game in the franchise, and, despite not being reviewed poorly, Shadow of the Tomb Raider wasn't reviewed quite as well as the first two titles. This could mean that Square Enix is looking for Crystal Dynamics to bring the franchise back to the heights of its first and second rebooted entries. Crystal Dynamics has said in the past that a new Tomb Raider game was in the works, but wasn't in active development. This listing could suggest that production is beginning to gain momentum, or that it's already in full swing. While it does suggest that a new adventure featuring Lara Croft is potentially in the works, there's another major project that Crystal Dynamics is working on that could use similar lighting features. It was recently announced that Crystal Dynamics would be assisting development on the new Perfect Dark title. Very little is known about the project, however. It could end up bearing some similarities to the Tomb Raider reboot, as Perfect Dark occasionally swaps to a third-person perspective. Obviously, this is all speculation, but the listing might not be unofficial confirmation that a new Tomb Raider title is in the works at all. Sony officially announces the free PlayStation Plus games for October 2021, which include 2 PlayStation 4 titles and 1 PS5 game. As it turns out, the free PS Plus games for October 2021 leaks were accurate. From October 5th to November 1st, PS Plus subscribers can claim Hell Let Loose on PS5, and Mortal Kombat X and PGA Tour 2K21 on PS4. There are some fans who may be unimpressed by this lineup, as Mortal Kombat X is a pretty old game and PGA Tour 2K21 is a sports game, but Hell Let Loose is a brand new release. Hell Let Loose, for the uninitiated, is a World War II shooter game with a massive scale. 100-player battles are the name of the game in Hell Let Loose, with 50 players on each team and 14 playable classes to choose from. Its status as a multiplayer-only shooter may limit its appeal to some, but it being a brand new release does reinforce the value of having a PlayStation Plus subscription, especially for PS5 gamers. Mortal Kombat X, meanwhile, was the first Mortal Kombat game to release on PS4. Many fans of the franchise may be focused on Mortal Kombat 11, but MKX is still worth checking out, especially for those that have never played it before. It has some unique roster members that don't appear in Mortal Kombat 11, for instance, and that could be reason enough alone for fans of the franchise to check it out. And finally, PGA Tour 2K21 is a golf game, and the first entry in the PGA Tour 2K series, serving as a successor to the golf club. PGA Tour 2K21 is just over a year old at this point, and is still the latest entry in the series. While PlayStation Plus subscribers wait for the free PS Plus games for October 2021, they can make sure that they've claimed the free PS Plus games for September 2021. The free PS Plus games for September 2021 include Overcooked All You Can Eat on PS5, while the PS4 offerings are Hitman 2 and Predator Hunting Grounds. The games will be available to claim until Tuesday, October 5th, at which point they will be replaced by the free PS Plus games for October 2021. And that's all for the video, guys. Like and share the video for a greater audience. Comment your thoughts on the topics, and donations are always appreciated. Subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon, and until then, from SMPV, it's goodbye.